The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Disadvantage when you start off life being adopted. What's your outlook on that? I mean, Jimmy and I have spoken about it. Me and Jimmy are very close, and I don't think he'd get upset. I hope he wouldn't get upset about me asking this, but do you think there's a disadvantage there, and does it affect you negatively mentally to start off your life? And I'm sure you talked to Mike about it. Did it affect Mike? I know how close he was to his adopted parents, but anyway, Paul.
Well, you know what? I don't consider myself a victim of in any shape or way or form, and I don't think Mike ever felt like he was a victim. He did. His dad took him to wrestling events when he was in high school, just drove him all over the country and stuff like that. I mean, they really, Bob and Mike were pretty tight, when it came right down to it. And I don't think he felt like a victim either. Is there something in the mind? Is there something in the back of the head mentally? Yeah, I think there is 100%, but neither one of us really had a victim mentality. He was a survivor, and that's what he did. And but yeah, yeah, like I said, in the back of your mind, I mean, I'm sure there's a little thing. Hey, wasn't I good enough? Why did my mom give me up or whatever? And everybody's got their own reasons, and I've got no ill feeling to my birth mother or anything like that. But I was also raised in a great family, and Mike was too. And I say, no matter what happens, you just have to make the most of every situation. And I think that's something that Mike did, and it was I don't think he was a victim in any sense of the word when it comes down to being adopted or so.
Paul, were you able to speak to Mike's father? I know the mother had passed away, and we were fortunate enough to meet his father, me and Jimmy, and meet his beautiful daughter. Were you able to make contact with them, or was it kind of like your relationship with Mike was like a separate type of situation?
Well, you know what? I got along with them for a little while, but I really didn't talk too much to Bob. I tried to get in touch with Demi a little bit. And I talked to Mike's estranged girlfriend, Jane, and stuff. We've kept in touch over the time because, both of us, we had so many moments sitting in Mike's living room and just hanging out and telling stories and laughing our heads off. So Jane was more my common ground than Bob was, I guess.
I was talking about when, I was fortunate to meet you guys, and you guys were doing a show on the network, and I was telling the story of how you and Mike had like fallen out of favor with each other, but I later on learned that was like a little brotherly thing, that you guys would have your issues with each other, disappear a little bit, and come back and recover.
Yeah.
If you could share a story about you and Mike where he was really hard to deal with. Can anything come to mind?
Yeah, trying to do that podcast. I think that was really difficult. He was, you know what? It was funny because I approached him with the idea, about the podcast, and then he said, "Yeah, that sounds great. I love it." And then he was having one of his moments for a little while, and then he had, he'd been in touch with Universal, and he was talking to you guys, and then he came back to me and he said, "Well, I got a platform for us." And I was like, "Okay." And then Mike was like, "But I want to be the host." I'm like, "Mike, we're co-hosts." But Mike wanted to make it all about him and stuff like that. And so I tried to, I tried to work with him, and I'm on a different time zone than all of you guys, and sometimes it was just difficult to get on the same page with Mike, and if it wasn't, and at that time, if it wasn't about Mike, he wasn't really interested, So
yeah, Mike could be a tough egg. I want to bring you back 1 second though. So, I don't think I'm revealing anything too important, but before Mike's untimely passing, I know he had come here to go to Niagara Falls with the girlfriend you were just speaking about, and then
Right.
they had a falling out. Does she feel any guilt? Like maybe she felt like that breakup or whatever was going on at that time may have caused him to pass away? I mean, a crazy question, but just asking.
No, no, not at all. Because from all the information and all the gathering that, I mean, all the talking we did about it, what had happened that day, because they were still in contact and everything. And what had happened that day is he was filling up his tank, and he ended up tripping. I mean, this is the sad thing about it. He ended up tripping over the gas hose, and being an amateur wrestler, as he was falling down, he thought he was still cat-like, and he could twist over and get on all fours like a cat, right? And he twisted, and he didn't get all the way around. The hose was caught in his feet, and he fell down, and he fractured his back, and then he was in tremendous pain from what I understood. And then when he ended up, he went to the doctor, they had the x-rays, and they actually sent him home with his fractured back. And he got some painkillers for it. And apparently he went and he laid down in bed. He took a couple pills and he laid down in bed, and Bob went in to check on him later, and he'd already passed away.
Mm.
So it was, as untimely as the death was, Jane has nothing to fear, but it wasn't. It had nothing to do with her. I think it was just, he was a big guy, and the mixture of the pain, and then taking painkillers. And I've never been a fan of painkillers. So many guys in this business have lost their life, and OD'd from that kind of stuff. I mean, we can talk about fentanyl all you want, but guys have been having issues with painkillers since they've been around. And it was and Mike wasn't, not that Mike was a pill popper or anything like that, but I just think, over the time, being 50, what was he, 54, 54, 55, and the painkiller, a mixture with a heart that might not have been as strong as it used to be. I think that was more the issue than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy and I saw it. He was in tremendous amount of pain, and he was definitely on a regimen of pain relieving stuff to help him along.
Well, yeah, he'd been struggling for a long time. He had problems with his feet, and he had other issues with his back and stuff like that. So it wasn't, he was dealing with pain all the time. And like I said, he wasn't popping pills or anything all the time. It was just once in a while. But then at that point, I don't even want to think about fracturing my back. Just thinking about what would happen if I fell and fractured something. I just don't know. Yeah, it must have been agonizing for him before he passed, unfortunately.
Mm. Well, Paul, again, I want to thank you for coming on, and especially you're quite the gentleman. By the way, you look great. I haven't seen you in a bit. You look great. You look great.